Hey everyone, and welcome back to another GT Online video. So, I was sitting around yesterday, pondering my thoughts for a new video, and I was thinking about what GT Online vehicles need buffs to them. So, I came up with a list of vehicles that really need buffs badly. These vehicles all range from land vehicles to air vehicles, because at the moment, sea vehicles are kind of pointless. And they will probably stay pointless until we get a naval update. And instead of just saying that they need buffs, I'm going to say what I would do to balance them in today's GT Online world. And I might split this video up into two parts depending on how long it is, but we'll see what happens, because there's kind of a lot to say about these vehicles. So up first on the list we have the Weaponized Tampa. This vehicle came out in the gun running update, and when I saw this vehicle in the trailer I was pretty hyped for it because it really does look amazing. It does live up to its name of Weaponized Tampa because you can load this thing up with weapons once you do all the research. You can put a dual remote minigun on the top which can rotate 360 degrees around. And this is the first and only time we are seeing a driver-controlled minigun that acts like a tank cannon, so it gets unique points there. And this minigun is extremely powerful against vehicles, definitely one of the most powerful bullet weapons in the entire game. And you can also add a mortar launcher on the back, which is unique too, but there's a downfall there which I'll get to shortly. You can also equip missiles on the front, but here's the catch. They aren't lock-on at all, and when you fire them, they come out at a slight upward angle, so if you're planning on hitting targets far away, then there's not a chance. And the missiles share the exact same flaw that the grenade launcher has. And if that wasn't enough weaponry for you, you can equip mines that you can drop down, and those again have the same flaw as the other explosive weapons on this vehicle. And that main flaw with the vehicle is the armor. It has none. This thing will blow up from only getting hit with one explosive. And when you have explosive weapons like the rear mortar or the missiles or the proximity mines, if you make one little mistake, you're going to blow yourself up. On the mortar, if you just tap the fire button instead of holding it down to make it launch farther, I think it just lands right behind you and blows you up. And now that I think about it, I'm pretty sure this is the only vehicle that doesn't have any explosive resistance that can place mines down. Now, there is an armor plating upgrade on this vehicle which makes it look cool, but it doesn't do anything to give it more protection. This car is pretty simple to fix. Increase the explosive resistance to that of the Duke of Death or maybe the Stromberg, and make the missiles lock-on missiles. It's much easier using the powerful minigun on top to destroy vehicles than trying to manually aim the rockets, so there's really no point in having them there. Having lock-on missiles would allow it to fight off things like oppressors or deluxos much easier. Up next on the list we have the Ruiner 2000 personal vehicle version. This vehicle was released with the import-export update, and at this point in time when the update came out, GT Online was much less weaponized and militarized than it is now. This was way before Gun Running or Smuggler's Run came out. I think Rockstar was sort of putting their feet in the water when they added these special vehicles because they were kind of bad. I mean, you had the paper mache armored Boxville, the pizza pan ramp buggy, and the waste my money lander. It's obvious that they didn't want these vehicles to be extremely overpowered. And the same goes for the Ruiner 2000. However, this vehicle is the pioneer of the super tracking rockets, and its jump and parachuting abilities gave it some potential for stunting and climbing buildings. But this thing only holds 8 missiles, and back then before the Oppressor, that was okay. But the Ruiner 2000 did not age very well, because now we have vehicles like the Deluxo that hold 30 of the same top tracking rockets that the Ruiner 2000 has, and it can fly. Meanwhile, the Rhino 2000 is stuck with 8 and grounded for the most part. And it also has no armor, which doesn't help its cause either. Now I have a couple ways that this vehicle could be buffed that would bring it up to the Stromberg or the Deluxo level for combat. A universal buff though, increase the missile capacity to 30 at least, keep it on par with the Deluxo. Then as a secondary buff, either give it lock-on immunity so no homing missiles can track it, or give it explosive resistance similar to the Duke of Death or Stromberg. It has to be stronger than the Deluxo because the Deluxo has its flying perk. The Ruiner 2000 has a jump, but that won't help it in combat situations as much as flying would. Moving on to the third vehicle that needs a buff, the Volatile. And oh my god, does this thing need it badly. What were Rockstar thinking when they added this flying Dorito to the game? This vehicle was added with the Doomsday Heist update, and it has just about every flaw you can name. It does come with 100 bombs instead of the 50 usual bombs like on all the other planes, so that's one plus. And it has pretty powerful machine guns for the passengers to use, which is another nice addition. And it is very fast once you get it going, but I don't think these outweigh the major flaws that it has. The biggest one being the bug that the Volatile has, where you cannot hear the lock-on warning sound, so you better be looking back for missiles or else they will surprise you. Hopefully this is fixed in the next update because it's really annoying. Another flaw is the armor. I don't know why Rockstar includes these huge planes that can't even take a beating before going down. I said this before in my initial volatile guide, but this plane is such wasted potential. They could buff it by not letting people lock onto the plane and by having it off the radar permanently because it is a stealth bomber like it says in the heist setup mission. And another thing to note about that heist setup mission with the volatile. The bombs that the volatile drops are actually way stronger in that mission. Not only can it carpet bomb 10 bombs at once instead of 5, but the blast radius is also double to what you see in free mode. For all standard bombs on all other planes, including the volatile in free mode, they run off the script Explosive Tag Bomb Standard, where the blast radius is 6, but in the heist setup with the volatile, it runs off of the script Explosive Tag Bomb Standard Wide, where the blast radius is 12 instead of 6. By the way, huge thank you to FunMW2 for telling me all this information. I don't understand why this script can't be applied to a dedicated bomber plane in free mode. Having that bigger blast radius would make this plane so much better than it is right now. And if they gave it the other buffs I mentioned too, I would actually use this plane on a regular basis. And speaking of bomber planes, the Volatile's brother, the Bambuco, also needs a buff. Now, I actually think the Bambuco is a really fun vehicle to use. When you buy it, it comes with standard machine guns for the gunners, but unlike the Volatile, you can upgrade them to explosive cannons. And these explosive cannons have a ton of range to them, and they are what makes this vehicle so good. If you want to pilot this thing into battle, just put the enemy in the middle and then orbit around them, and the gunners should be able to take them out because of the range of the cannons. Unfortunately, the Bambuco only comes with 50 bombs, even though it's a big bomber plane just like the Volatile, and that one has 100. And you'd think that this plane has to be a pretty tanky one since it is extremely slow and huge, but nope. This thing has as much armor as all the other planes in the Smuggler's Run update. This plane honestly doesn't even need to be changed that much in terms of buffs, but I think it should be a little faster than it is now, and the armor should be, of course, way up. This thing needs to have Avenger armor because if there is an explosive sniper user in your lobby, this thing is useless because it blows up in I think only 3 explosive rounds, which is pathetic for a plane this slow and big. On top of that, it costs a lot of money too, so at least make it worth the cash you spent on it. Up next, we have the Valkyrie helicopter. Now, even though I'm only mentioning the Valkyrie in this video, I think all of the old helicopters should be buffed to what the Hunter and Akula are capable of. The Valkyrie was released with the Heist update, and it was the first helicopter to come with this unique explosive cannon that the passenger can use. It also comes with side miniguns for other passengers, and I think the side miniguns were actually changed recently because when you shoot them, it's like they have tracer rounds because you can see the line of fire. And I don't remember that being a thing before, but I don't really fly the Valkyrie that much, so they could have changed it a while ago and I wouldn't have even noticed. And the sad thing about this helicopter is that if you get hit by a homing rocket just one time, this thing is history. In the Humane Labs heist, this thing is really armored and takes lots of homing rockets to blow up. It would be so awesome for this thing to have countermeasures and armor just like the Hunter. The Valkyrie would easily be able to compete with those helicopters if it had the same capabilities as them. It just kinda sucks that so many of the old helicopters go to waste when they could easily be made useful with a couple of minor changes to them. Another one that comes to mind is the Annihilator helicopter, which also lacks majorly in the armor category. I don't think it would be that hard to just slap some armor and countermeasure upgrades on the old helicopters to make them useful. Sticking in the air, we have the Molotov, and the Molotov has some of the worst turning for a weaponized jet in the whole game, but I've actually been flying this plane over the past few days, and it does have some unique tricks you can do with it. For example, you can slow the thing down to a stall and put out the landing gear and the plane will just hover and glide in one spot and you still retain full control of its handling while the engine is off, which is something that a lot of other jets cannot do. It does have spam rockets and very accurate front machine guns. They are an explosive, which is good because I don't think any explosive cannon should be added on any plane meant for dogfighting. If they added explosive cannons on a medium-sized heavy plane like the Mogul, then that would be a different story. But jets that can get across the map in less than a minute should not have explosive cannons. I think to make up for the Molotov's bad handling, it should be a little more armored than the other jets like the Pyro and the Starling. And this is kind of grasping at straws, but I think the Molotov would have been the perfect jet to have the barrage missiles from the Hunter on it. Maybe the Dakota too. And I know that isn't going to happen because they aren't going to change the weapons on a plane, but that is something that I would definitely like to see in a future update. I could just think of so many cool tricks you can do with a plane that has barrage missiles on it. And it would be pretty unique too because no other plane does that in the game. No other plane has barrage missiles currently. Moving back onto the ground, let's talk about the Rhino Tank. This vehicle has had quite a journey throughout the lifetime of this game. Back on the last gen versions of the game, way back in 2013, and oh my god, man, 2013, can you believe that? That's almost 5 years ago. Time just flies by. But yeah, back on last gen, the Rhino Tank was the strongest thing ever. It actually felt like how a tank should feel in a GTA game. This was the ultimate griefing tool back in the day, and it took so many rockets to take it down. And what made it even more powerful was that this was a time where there were no other weaponized vehicles in the game. There wasn't even a homing rocket to lock onto the tank from far away. Not even the Kinjali tank of today is as armored as the Rhino was back then. Fast forward to today, and the Rhino is just a shell of its former self. It blows up in 4 rockets, which is terrible. The Night Shark is more armored than that. I don't think it needed to be nerfed that badly. We have so many other things to take a tank out now, bombs from planes, missile barrages, oppressors, deluxos, that a tank needs to be heavily armored. In my opinion, not even the Kinjali is armored enough to survive today. And I think there's potential in a Rhino Tank custom where we could take it into our facility or maybe some other property and upgrade it and change the livery and the color of it. Activate the coaxial gun on top, maybe have some different cannon options like a lock-on one for example. Add countermeasures like a smoke screen that blocks lock-on, kinda like a chaff in an air vehicle. Or maybe an active protection system that blocks a single rocket coming at you every so often. I know it would be kinda like Battlefield, but I mean, we already have flares and chaff that exist, so why not add countermeasures for tanks? There are so many things that a Rhino Tank custom could have that would make it useful in today's GT Online. The last vehicle that I have on my list is the Charnobog. And the Charnobog is definitely a special vehicle. The lock-on range it possesses is insane, and the fact that it can shoot and track through walls at long ranges is just crazy. However, it doesn't have any armor to protect it against homing rockets. For a vehicle that you have to operate while sitting in one spot, I was expecting it to be able to take a beating. It shouldn't go down to only one rocket. It should have armor similar to the Insurgent in my opinion. Once this thing is set up, it shouldn't be so easy to take out. Anyways, that is my list of vehicles that need buffs in GTA Online. I managed to get through all of them in this video, so there will not be a part 2 unless I think of another big list of vehicles that need buffs. But with that said, let me know what vehicles you think need to be buffed, and if you enjoyed the video, feel free to leave a like as well as subscribe to my channel for more guide and PvP related content. And as always, thanks for watching and have a great day.